Hurricanes, wildfires, tornadoes. They usually come with little warning. Are you prepared? We can't stop natural disasters, but we can help to reduce casualties and destruction with preparation and planning. I'm Victoria Lara.
A variety of Denton first responders, residents, and students came together to assemble a natural disaster simulation. The purpose of this scenario? To absorb as much information as possible for when a real natural disaster hits. I'm Shaji Adam.
To understand where an exercise like this stems from, we spoke with a member of UNT administration.
I'm the Senior Vice President for Finance and Administration here at the University of North Texas. Both the Police Department and the Emergency Operations Center and also risk management report to me. So we run one major simulation at least every 24 months. We do all sorts of other simulations inside the Emergency Operations Center, which we call tabletop exercises. We've done tabletop exercises on civil disobedience, on fire response, active shooter. Most of those things you kind of see or happen at other university campuses, and sometimes we'll get an idea from the news. Something happens somewhere else at another university and we ask ourselves, are we prepared for that? And so we'll go ahead and do tabletop exercises quite frequently.
It's important to keep mass response skills freshly trained to assure everyone is prepared when confronted with an actual disaster situation.
Operation Thunderstruck was the idea that we would simulate a tornado and to see what sort of damage it might cause on campus and to see how capable we were of responding and how we could identify community assets, our city, police and fire department, cities beyond Denton, federal agencies, state agencies, to help us in our response.
So what exactly happened during Operation Thunderstruck? For those details, we spoke with Captain Mark Bergstrom.
I'm Captain Mark Bergstrom with the UNT Police Department. I'm the Administrative Division Commander. During the full-scale exercise, I was a controller. There's two different things when we were looking at this full-scale. You were looking at the immediate operational response, the life safety, scene security, being that this was a tornado, transporting victims, stabilizing the location itself. At that point, I think the follow-on coordination is something. There's so many players with the university because you have housing, administration, finance. You have to find places for people to go if they're dislocated from their residence. There's all these things that happen, and I think one thing is working on the coordination, which that's the university takes part in these exercises to see things where we can improve and do those. Operationally on the response, everything went to how we expected. I think that we as a PD, the administration and all these entities can work better to kind of coordinate our response and get more acquainted with each other. So when something happens, we're not just meeting them for the first time.
Operation Thunderstruck was created with unscripted and scripted aspects. For example, the scenario was simply that, a scenario, but the response was not. Captain Bergstrom oversaw both aspects of the operation to make sure everything moved according to plan. Here's the captain's description of what happened on May 6th.
Basically, there was a tornado strike at Apogee Stadium. First, we got notified of it, first responders. You have the first couple of officers that arrive on the scene. There had been a touchdown and there were multiple casualties, mass casualties actually. The initial arriving officers on scene assess immediate area. They assess the patients. There was a delay in fire responding. There's multiple strikes. It's a major storm. There may be a delay in EMS getting there. So the job of the first responders, the police officers there, are to stabilize the scene, prioritize casualties as best they can. We're trained in emergency first aid, but you got to think at that scene you have 20 to 30 victims laid out with an array of either broken bones, they're deceased, there's walking wounded all at once. So the initial officers responded, they contacted dispatch for additional resources. As additional resources became available, fire, follow-on police assets, they became deployed. And as they got there, the on-scene commander will make calls where he deploys those individuals, whether they're holding a perimeter, whether they're doing a search and rescue. After the first initial strike and the assessment of the scene, there was a second strike at Discovery Park, which divides assets at that point. We sent additional resources to the Discovery Park. That scene was assessed. Patients were transported from that location. It was secured. And at that point, you go into, once the patients are transported, you're searching the scene, you're looking for other damage with victims. You have to find out how many you have, categorize them, get them transported, support the fire department, and it's basically a search and rescue at that point.
So just how long does it take to prepare for a drill of this scale? And just who is preparing?
There was a lot of people involved with putting together and participating in the full-scale exercise that we hosted. When you look at the University of North Texas, just look at all the different departments that were involved. We had, of course, the police department was very much involved. The emergency management safety services team, risk management services was involved. Our auxiliary services, especially from the housing side, dining services was involved. Our facilities, they had a large part, especially in helping us set up the site and making sure everything was ready to go logistically to be able to do the full-scale exercise. So that's just a number of the departments that were involved. And of course, the academic side, they were very helpful, and every year they provide volunteers through our EADP program. You'd mentioned as well that you saw quite a few TWU students that were involved. Of course, we had the City of Denton and their different departments, whether it's the fire department, the police department, their utilities folks. I mean, there's quite a few different players. Denton County, they were great. They brought out what they call Goliath, and that's their mobile command unit. And they actually helped us to run our incident command on site out of their mobile command unit. And then they also helped us coordinate some drone operations that were taking place during the full-scale exercise.
Planning was over 6 months, 6 to 8 months, and it starts because it's such a large operation that you're involving hospitals, fire, multiple police agencies, civilian first responders, along with the sworn first responders. So up to 6 to 8 months before it's executed.
Although a great part of this scenario was strategically planned out, every plan comes with its challenges.
It's hard to manufacture, hard to recreate realism. You do the best you can with what you got, and I think part of that's an internal thing with officers or role-playing when they're there, and it's in their imagination what's happening at that point, what's presented to them. The only problem with making an operation too complex is then you start losing learning points out of it, because then you're overwhelmed with too many things at once. So you pick the major pieces that you need to focus on, whether it's scene stability. Life safety is the big one. Scene stability, crime scene control, all those things go into play. You don't want to overcomplicate it because then you lose it.
With so many groups working together toward one goal, each had areas where they were successful, as well as recognized areas that needed improvement.
Well, we learned a little bit more about cooperating with the other agencies that need to help us in this circumstance. We got great assistance from the City of Denton Police and Fire Department and from some local fire departments around. And we were able to make better contacts with them, understand their capacities and their capabilities should we need them in the future. And I think they got an idea of what we were capable of, so if they need us in the future, we need to mutually respond. I think we also learned that we were trying to be very, very precise with our communication about injuries and fatalities. And what happened was simulated, which would happen in a regular circumstance. Social media got out with information way before the university got out for information. We were trying to go for accuracy and completeness, but by delaying our response a little bit, we were letting the social media do the communication, and a lot of it was firsthand experience, but didn't see the whole picture.
Everybody did a great job. Everybody stepped up, worked hard. We learned a lot from the tabletop, especially again as to our Mercy Operations Center and the way it's structured and the way that it functions. It just gave us a great opportunity. The other thing too is it's all about identifying areas that we could improve. That's an important aspect of it. But like we talked about a little bit earlier, just that opportunity to work with other organizations and to build relationships that I never would have had if I had not been part of this full-scale exercise. And especially at a co-director level, it enabled me to develop relationships and work with people at a level, again, that I never would have had the opportunity to do so. And in the long run, that's beneficial to us. If something does happen, I know who to call, I know who to work with, I know where my resources are, and they know me. And that's always going to be something that's very, very important in the event that we have something happen.
Each agency that played a part in the disaster drill is known for their hard work. whether it's with the University of North Texas or UNTPD. And in the end, after learning more about what does and doesn't work, it became obvious that one of the key aspects of preparation is cooperation.
I think the biggest takeaway is teamwork. And what you learn from these scenarios is any plan doesn't survive first contact because things change on the ground as you move along and as the scenarios happen. You can't really script a response to any type of emergency situation. We do these so when it happens for real, it's not the first time we've considered the issues that may arise during an operation. I think the biggest takeaway is watching the teamwork amongst the different groups. It's pretty amazing to see when you have that many groups coming together to complete one mission to save lives and plan for an emergency. It's pretty interesting.
So when disaster comes, because it always does,
Denton is ready. Are you?